Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Writer's Parachute, where we are guiding author and writer dreams to a perfect landing. And today we have with us a very special guest and a friend of mine, Dr. Joe Famularo. He is joining us today to talk about his book, IOU Life Leadership, and a bunch of other things. So we're excited to talk to him. But as always, we always start off with just a little bit of housekeeping. As you know, go ahead and hit that like button, share, and subscribe on the YouTube channel. And please do go follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Writer Parachute with no S. Of course, we are available on all podcasting channels, so be sure to follow us and like us there, and share us around with your friends. We always appreciate new listeners to the podcast here. So we have been talking in the month of April about events. It is that time of year. We're talking about events and awards season. It is springtime, and so all of the conferences, festivals, and book awards season is open and in full swing. So today we're going to talk about a few of those that I have participated in, or that I know people have participated in that have done well. So for the awards, we're going to talk about the Reader's Choice. Reader's Choice is one of the awards out there that you can connect with. You can go to readerschoice.com and check out their rules and submission guidelines for your book. They do have multiple categories, and I think they do a great job. And I also believe they all have an option for a review of your book, as well as an entry into the award system. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about events coming up, and I have 3 for you that are coming up pretty quickly. Of course, just a reminder for you children's authors out there that Children's Book Week is coming up next month on May 2nd through the 8th, and this year the hashtag is #HowDoYouBook. So be sure to participate in that. If you want more information, they have a wealth of information about participating in Children's Book Week at the CBC .org website. That's Children's Book Council, and you can check that out. Next up, we have the Inkers Con conference that is coming up in the month of June and July. They do an amazing job. They are offering a live conference in Dallas, Texas, I believe outside of Dallas, in Plano, Texas. That will be live June 3rd through the 5th, but not to be outdone. If you can't make the live event, they are doing a digital conference in the month of July from the 16th through the 31st. They have a wealth of information and different topics that you can participate in the classes for those. And then a third and last but not least, put on by the Writer's Digest, is the Short Story Conference. It is a virtual conference. You can go to writersdigest.com and check that out. That will be coming up on May 20th through May 22nd. I do hope that you guys do check those out. And of course, if you have participated in a festival, a conference, or an award system for authors and writers, please let me know in the show comments, and I will check them out, and maybe they will be on my list of recommended ones for authors and writers here at the Writer's Parachute. And so just to get on with the show, of course, we want to welcome our guest today. It is Dr. Joe Famularo. He is a friend of mine. He is an author, writer, speaker, and educator, and his book is IOU Life Leadership. Dr. Joe Famularo has been an educational leader for over 30 years. He's been a teacher, director, principal, assistant, superintendent, and superintendent of schools. He enjoys presenting topics on teaching, learning, and leadership, and has a distinguished education background, holding a doctorate in educational leadership and technology, as well as having a teacher certifications for K through 12 mathematics, reading, special education, N through 6 elementary, and K through 12 music. Dr. Joe is an innovative leader and has positively impacted the New York and Long Island region. He's held many leadership positions, including president of the Nassau County Council of School Superintendents, president of Scope Board of Directors, co-chair of the New York State Council of School Superintendents, Legislative Committee, and co-chair of NCCSS Legislative Committee, chair of the Education Advisory Council for Adelphi University, peer editor for the Journal of Leadership and Instruction, and has worked chair of the NCCSS Safety Committee, working closely with law enforcement on school safety. He has also worked, lost my place here, worked very closely with Nassau Suffolk School Board's executive team and the Nassau Region PTA. Dr. Joe Famularo provides leadership on the post-secondary level, teaching and serving on advisory boards of several colleges and universities. Dr. Joe and his wife live on Long Island, New York, and have raised 3 children and 2 dogs. Welcome to the show. I am so impressed right now. I just need to stop and just let you talk.
Wow, what a welcome. Thank you so much. It's so great to speak with you again and see you. This is very exciting. I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you're here. You just kind of brought the level up. I'm like going, wow, am I educated enough to have a conversation with him? I hope so. It's like, I'm just a lowly former teacher.
Are you kidding me? I've learned so much from you. Let's get real.
Well, I'm impressed if nobody else is. So I want to talk a little bit about your book, this IOU Life Leadership, and what inspired you to create this amazing guide and book.
Yeah, very exciting. It was inspired by my grandfather, Vincenzo Famularo. He was a great life leader and U.S. Navy sailor who he served in World War I and World War II. And he immigrated alone from Italy at 13 years old in 1908. And he just really inspired not only myself, my cousins, my brothers, and he was a real life leader. And he would talk to us, tell us stories, and really give us those examples of being a leader, not only professionally, but personally, how to be a leader in your family and being a leader in your job and in your life. So that was the inspiration. In addition, working and researching leadership programs, self-help books for several years. I was, put those two together and came up with this book called IOU Life Leadership. And it's been very exciting and been, very happy to be sharing it.
Well, that is such a great story. And I always find that when we're kids, we always think that, we're just annoyed by the adults in the room. It's like going, oh, come on. Yes, we know, more than us. And it's like, I'm tired of hearing it. But when you get older and you become an adult, you're like going, they actually were telling me something that was really important and I should have paid better attention. But
I find listening to, elders, I really listen very well. There's so much, think about the history they have, the stories that they have that they can tell and share. So I just really enjoy listening to people who've been through it and try to learn from it, right? Why do we need to make the same mistakes over and over and over? But, it's very important to listen to those experiences.
Right. Well, like I said, I wish I'd have listened a little bit better when I was younger, but it is what it is. But your specific book, this IOU Life Leadership, is really more than a book. It's kind of an all-inclusive guide to help you navigate personal and professional life. And so can you give us a few examples of what you're talking about here? Because most of our audience probably hasn't read the book, but I am telling you, this book, if there's a question out there that you have about your life and about where to go forward or how to go forward, I'm telling you, the answer is in it.
Yeah, thanks. Well, IOU, typically when we hear IOU, you owe someone something, but in IOU Life Leadership, you owe yourself and others to be a life leader. So it's really looking at all the principles that we know that's been out there. So I didn't invent the principles, but what I did do is come up with this easy acronym with IOU to help us to remember and to implement the principles. So it's a foundational framework for positive, effective living. And it's really living with intention, finding out those areas where you have control over versus the areas we don't have control over. And many times we focus so much on the uncontrollables that we just ignore all the things we have control. We have so much more control than we think. And when we stay in that zone, the stress helps to reduce stress. You start feeling more peacefulness, more happiness, more excellence, more healthiness. So it's really focused on an inside out approach. The I is for inward, O is for outward, and then upward is the upward living. That's the byproduct of your inward and outward living. And that's what we strive for, that peacefulness, happiness, healthiness, and excellence. So it's an intentional tool that really helps us to really focus on our controllables each and every day and try to help us to, again, reach those goals of our lives.
Oh, it is amazing, and it's really kind of set me on a better path, I would say, just to be a little more responsible, because you don't realize how often you're irresponsible as an adult, where you're just making decisions on the fly instead of actually thinking about how it affects your life. So I will tell you that that has made a huge difference for me. I actually sit and think about how I'm going to approach things rather than just going, oh, well, I got this. I can just wing it. I'm fine. So it's
Yeah,
like
right.
really
It's
getting
that
yourself
idea of
through.
living by intention or living by default, right? That we just drift through life. We go to work, we come home, we eat, we watch TV, we go to sleep, and then we just do it again the next day. Or living with intention and really focusing on what are our goals, what's our life vision, what's our mission, our principles. That gets exciting when you start really developing, your inward living, who you are as a person. It's your most important asset. We focus on our external assets. Let's focus on our internal assets, ourselves.
Right. Well, and I think the number one for me in reading your book was I have such a hard time saying no. And,
Mm,
I mean, I do know how to say no, but,
right.
if somebody comes to me and they really need my help, it's like it's really hard to say no, even though I don't have the time or the energy or whatever it is that they need from me. And so after reading your book, I started realizing that I'm sabotaging myself more than I am helping somebody else. So I'm just creating this thing where I'm just digging myself in deeper and deeper and saying yes and yes more and more and not actually getting anything done and kind of improving everybody's life but my own.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
little frustrating.
There's actually a section in the book which I love, and it's been a hit every time I discuss it. It's the three life relationships. We use a nautical theme throughout the whole book, so it focuses on oceans and you're a life ship going through your life journey. But the three life relationships is really related to what you're saying. You have an inward life relationship. That's your main ship. And who's on your life ship? These should be the people that support you, that are helping you with your life goals. It's yourself, your spirit, your family, and your friends. And then there's this other ship bias, which we call the inward outward life ships. And that's your colleagues, mentors, and acquaintances. And then there's a third ship, which we call your outward life ship. And that's strangers, people that we see. So those are all the people in your life. The question is everyone on your ship supporting you? And if not, we say they need to walk the plank. Get them off your life ship. It could even be a family member. But now it's not saying you want them to walk off and drown. It's they go into a little dinghy and we use these visuals. And it's obviously a mental state that it's a placeholder that you just have everyone. Who are the most important people in your life? So one of the activities is who's on your life ship and who are the most important people in those categories: self, spirit, family, and friends. And then really focusing on them and use them to support you for moving forward. So yes, we have to say no. We have to have the people that are not supporting us walk the plank and get them off your life ship so you can get on with your journey.
Right. And I mean, that was very helpful to me. It's like I was just like going, oh, did he just write this section for me personally? Because it was like we were really having a conversation. And I'm just like going, is he somewhere here in the room? Waiting to see how I'm going to react to this. But it was great. So also included in your book is, I really want to talk about this, is your PH2E formula. And you mention it. And I don't want to give too much away about your book, but I think this is a really critical part, because until I understood this formula, I didn't really understand everything you were talking about. So can you give us some, what that means and how it connects to the life anchors that you talk about throughout?
Sure. Sure. So at any moment in the day, you're either living inwardly or outwardly. Inwardly is when you're self-reflecting, you're inward living, you're thinking, and outwardly living is when you're interacting with others. Right now, we're outward living, right? So it's relationship. So there's a byproduct from that. After, there's a feeling that we're getting even right now. We strive for upward living. And what is upward living? We say it's receiving your peacefulness, happiness, healthiness, and excellence, which is PH2E. P for peacefulness, happiness, healthiness, H2, and E for excellence. So peace is obviously the calm in your life. It's different than happiness. Happiness is the joy in your life. You could be peaceful and calm, but not happy, or you could be happy and have no peace in your life. So those are important aspects we all strive for. And then healthiness is obviously we need to have a healthy mind, a healthy body. And then excellence is your learning. It's your, what's stimulating you, what's your purpose. It's your education. So PH2E is what we all strive for. So in the book, we talk about how is your PH2E life propeller? A propeller pushes a boat. In our life, PH2E will push us through life. So we have an assessment that you could take. It's free. You go to ph2e.com and you take this assessment. You answer the question. So it's self-assessment, and you find out how your life propeller looks. What areas under peacefulness, happiness, healthiness, and excellence do you need to work on, or maybe we're neglecting? So the idea is to balance your life propeller first and then enlarge it. So you may say, oh, wow, my healthiness is really low, and it'll come out on this assessment. So again, you go to ph2e.com, you take the assessment, and then you see where your life propeller is. And then there's activities and different tools to help you to try to increase those areas.
Well, it is amazing, and it really has helped me. So we sort of touched on the life anchors. So you have in the book 12 essential anchors. So what are some of those essential anchors, and what makes them essential versus just being an anchor?
Yeah, that's great. I like that question. Well, there are 12 essential life anchors. There are 6 inward anchors to help us with our inward living, and then 6 outward anchors. So there are anchors that we, and they're based on principles. So, for example, the principle of self-identity, the principle of life living. There are principles all around us. But what we did was look at many programs out there and many different tools and try to come up with the essential anchors, the 6 most important life anchors for our inward living. And the first is self-culture, which is a word that, I made it into a word, I actually trademarked that word. So how is your self-culture? Your self-culture, that's a foundational inward anchor. It's who you are. It's your inward being, and it's based on the principle of self-identity. That's anchor 1. And just to talk about anchor 2, which is your life vision, and that's the principle of life living. Really, that's our purpose, potential, and passion. So you think of 3 circles, and in the middle is your life vision. What's your purpose in life? What's your potential? That's your skills. And then what drives you? What gets you up every morning? What's your passion? There's several questions in the book that help you to go through those 3, and then you'll just start developing, and it'll just come off the page, your life vision. And it's something that, we should write down, put it on our phone, look at, modify it, change it. So there are 6 inward anchors. Those are the, important. There's daily mission, life principles, life values, life goals. And then the outward anchors is based on trust. And anchor 7, 8, 9, 10 is based on inspire, IOU, trust. It's about relationships. We need to have, obviously, trust to move anywhere in life. And it's based on the principle of life relationships. So you have 6 essential inward, six essential outward anchors, step by step, with questions after each chapter that you can really work through these. On the website, you can actually download what we call anchor planning pages. And so that's another thing that's free. Anybody can download those questions and really go through the 12 anchors. And all of this is really explained on the website as well, which is iouliving.com. But it really helps you with looking at your inward life and your outward life and hoping for that PH2E and push your life propeller in a forward motion.
Right. And it really has made a huge difference in not only my life, but in the way that I kind of look at the things happening around me. So I do appreciate that. So thank you for that. But I want to talk a little bit about how amazing this book is. You have one of the great gets out there that I was just so impressed by. You have the foreword to this book was written by Stephen M. R. Covey. It's an amazing feat in itself. Can you kind of share with us how you were able to obtain such a coveted endorsement for your book? Because I know a lot of listeners out there are going, oh my goodness, how did he do that?
Very fortunate, and I'm a big 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Stephen R. Covey, who wrote that book, sold 40 million copies. So it is very good. I'm friends with one of the facilitators, and he's a consultant speaker. His name's Gary McGuey, and he works for Franklin Covey. I've known him for 15, 20 years now. And I've worked with Franklin Covey to help them work with me in my school district. So we're actually a Leader in Me school districts. We were recognized by Franklin Covey as a lighthouse district. We're the first in New York State and the second in the country. We teach our children, the students, in the 7 habits, and we call them leadership principles. We modified it a little bit, but we teach them to be proactive, put first things first, listen first to understand, then be understood. And they have that language. Every staff member has been trained. So I have a connection with Franklin Covey. So Gary gave this material to Stephen Covey to look at, and it connected with him. He was, and very fortunate. He wrote the foreword, and him calling me a fellow co-catalyst in his mission of bringing a global renaissance of trust. It was a great honor. He put that in the foreword. So that has been a great feat, and it's helped sell a lot of books. It's been a bestseller over and over. So I'm very excited and thanking him for that.
Right. And it just goes to show that you never know where those relationships, it's like, as you talk about in your book, if you're being intentional in the way you're approaching things and how you're doing things, all of these gifts just come to you. It's like you're creating this stream through the shipping lane, and everything starts coming towards you instead of you working against the waves.
Right.
And it's like I'm always so amazed that you were able to do that. And it was a lot of, again, what you're talking about, just trusting the process.
Yeah, and I got a lot of endorsements as well. Like you said, I sent out letters, I sent emails asking for them to endorse the book. I got Charlie Camarada, he's an astronaut. I got John Gordon, who's a great speaker. And then some said no, of course, but you have to intentionally try. You have to get it out there. You have to be aggressive, and it pays off.
Yes, it does. And that goes to one of my favorite sayings. It's like, what's the worst they can say? No.
Mm-hmm.
You're already expecting that. So what's the big deal?
Right. Exactly.
But I do love that, and it really is impressive. So we're going to shift gears just a little bit and talk about why you're here on the Writer's Parachute, other than we do want to promote you, and I do love your book, and I just love you anyway as a personal friend. So every writer struggles through getting their book. There's challenges and they run into obstacles. So what was the biggest one for you in trying to get your book out there?
Yeah, there's many. So it's 566 pages, 92,000 words, 114 illustrations. So, the learning of organizing your material was a real, learning curve for me. And when you're writing, and especially a nonfiction, and you have all these different categories, and at first I was just, streaming it, writing it. And when I realized how to organize it was the most important thing. What's the best way to organize it? So that was a real, paradigm shift for me, is organizing material. I dictated a lot of this as well because I'm in the car. So I dictated the material. And then when you get back home later that night, you need to categorize it, tag it under several categories. Again, I didn't do that in the beginning. Once I realized that, it helped later on to put it together. And also keeping your references. If you don't have your references when you read material, it's very difficult to go back and try to find it. So organizing the material was really the challenge that I faced. But as we got into it, it obviously helped along the way, and produced a good book. So
it is very impressive, and I agree with you. Some of the biggest challenges when you're talking about these great books, even just working on just a novel, if you aren't organizing all of your research, all of your little bits and pieces, like for me, I write a children's book series, but in doing that, I have to keep track of all of my different characters, what they say and do in book 1, because it may come up in book 3. And it's like, I don't want them suddenly have changed clothes in the middle of a scene.
Right.
It's crazy, but yes, organization is very critical to pretty much any book you're writing. So we will talk about that later when I give the tip at the end of the show. I always try to pull a ripcord on a nice writing, promoting, marketing tip, and we're going to talk specifically about that, about organizing your work to set yourself up for a good
that's great
outcome. So beyond being a published author, again, we talked about you being an educator with a master's degree. How do you think that background has helped you prepare to write this book and to go on this amazing journey as a best-selling author and now a speaker and and now we're going to talk a little bit more about some other exciting things coming up for you.
Great. No, absolutely. Well, when you're in that environment in education, you really interact with amazing people. So I was, always around great leaders, educators, and in my area too, I had to negotiate, multi-million-dollar budgets and contracts, et cetera. So all of that really helped when I was able to, get into this whole idea of how to write a book about life leadership. And again, it's not agreeing or disagreeing with others. It's about understanding. So I really try to listen to everyone. We mentioned earlier, listening to people who've gone through experiences, trying to understand them. And I've really tried to intentionally listen, understand, again, not agree, not disagree, understand, and then take that information. And many times I don't agree, but it gives me an idea of where I need to go or how, I want to approach it in my book or that's connected to my philosophy. So being around educators has really helped me dramatically. I have amazing teachers that I work with, administrators, my board of education. It's just an amazing team. And being in that environment, it was a win-win just for anyone writing a book on leadership.
Right. And I would say that, as you list in your book, listening is one of the critical tools that we have to succeed, because if you're not listening, you're not understanding what is going on around you, and it's really hard to make decisions with half of the information.
Right.
And unfortunately I see that happening more and more out in the world. But maybe we can create this new renaissance where people are starting to listen.
Yeah. And it's
understand.
like, how often do we have a course on listening in school, right? We don't, that, and it's one of the most important things is to listen. Again, listening empathically, listening for understanding. I call it wholehearted listening. And I have these 4 different areas of listening, where there's wholehearted, where you're listening with your heart to understand empathically. And then there's half-hearted listening. Then there's reply listening, where you just want to reply and you're not even really listening. And then there's no listening, where you're just saying, yeah, he just, you're thinking about what you need to do after the conversation. So it's getting to that empathic listening where you can really help and tap into other people's greatness. Everyone has something special to share. It's about listening to them and trying to pull from it and then take it on your own journey.
Right. And I'm going to add one to that as a former, teacher and reading specialist, there's also the listening that happens when you're just waiting for your turn to answer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So there's this, like, I'm not paying any attention to anything
Right.
you're saying. I'm just waiting until it's my turn to talk.
That's right.
So I do appreciate that. So here's what we're going to talk about that. A little birdie told me that you have another book in the works, and it's a companion book for kids for the IOU life leadership theme. So what can you tell us about this new book, and when can we expect
Oh,
our hands
very excited to move into this area. So it's right now, the working title is My IOU Life Leadership, Get Ready for the Journey. So it's a child getting into their life ship and having this magical journey and interacting with the calm and seas of life and through the storm. So, and again, focusing on what they have control over versus what they don't have control over, and trying to teach them at a young age. So when there's a storm, you can't change the storm, but you can adjust your sails. There's a section in there where they interact with this big whale, and they get very nervous, but the whale actually ends up helping the child to get through a difficult area. So a different genre for me, but I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a great little book for kids, and I'm hoping it to come out in the fall. So that's the date right now we're looking at.
Okay, so fall of 2022. So we're very excited about that. We'll have to have you come back on and talk about your children's book when that's out. But I've been fortunate enough to have a little sneak peek at this book, and I think your book is going to do amazingly well with children, to kind of teach them these concepts that are kind of getting lost in the busyness of life. And I do appreciate that avenue of going out there and teaching kids. And I mean, I know that's where your heart is to begin with, but
Yeah.
this is taking it a step further. And I really do think you'll do very well with it. I'm very excited about that. So
Thank you.
do you have any upcoming events or anything that you want to talk about?
Well, we've been working on a few different things. First, a change workshop, right? So, when you're thinking about living intentionally and dealing with change, we all deal with change. It's about focusing and breaking it down and looking at what can I control in this change, and what are the things I can't control. So it's again that same theme. So we do have a workshop we've been facilitating. It's both virtual, in person. It's based on this life map cycle, we call it. We all have a map that we use for our journey in life. And is your map accurate, or is it incomplete, or is it the wrong map? So, it has some really interesting questions. We all have this life map. So that's an exciting piece that we have. And again, working on the 2 books and some companion books. So it's been busy and very exciting.
I know you always amaze me how much you're able to get done with how much work you already do, which is a testament to how knowledgeable you are about keeping your life on track. So where can we find your books?
So it's on Amazon. You can get it from Barnes and Noble, anywhere where books are sold. But right now it's on sale on Amazon. So if anyone would like to pick up a copy, it's a good time to get it. So that's at, or you can go to iouliving.com, and it'll direct you to several places where you can purchase the book. And again, get all that free material from IOU Living.
Well, that's amazing. And of course, just a reminder to our listeners, we will have all the links mentioned in the show, in the notes at the end of the show. So please do go check those out. We will link you to his website, to the assessment, and to the anchor planning pages, as well as information about this workshop that he is working on when that comes out and is available, as well as the purchase links to buy his book. So I know you're active on social media off and on. So where can your followers and fans find you on social media?
Sure. So it's at Dr. Joe Famularo, and it's just DRJOE Famularo, FAM as in Mary, ULARO. And we have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn. So all of those, they're all at Dr. Joe Famularo, and I'd love to get you on board.
Well, that's very exciting. Of course, we'll have those listed for you. And then, of course, if anyone wants to connect with you about speaking or author visits, where would they connect with you for that?
So on the website, there's a contact tab, and just hit the contact tab and it goes directly to us. So that's again at iouliving.com, and love to hear from you.
Okay, awesome. Well, and you did have something unique that you wanted to show us, and that you're going to offer to our fans of the Writer's Parachute. So I'm very excited.
Yes. So since we do have a nautical theme, and when those 12 anchors, we use a captain's wheel as one of the symbols. So anyone that subscribes to IOU Living, and that's at the website, will mail you out one of these keychains. It says IOU in the middle, and just a little gift to say thank you.
Oh, well, that's very exciting. I'll have to go sign up, make sure I get my keychain. So we want to make sure you get one of those. So is there anything else that you have going on that we haven't talked about or we haven't covered that you wanted to add before we close out today?
Well, it's just, exciting to connect with your audience, and just, get everyone in this whole IOU Living life leadership mode. So, just be happy for people to get to the website. You can subscribe, and we'll keep you updated on blogs and other information. But it's always a pleasure to speak with you, Donna. And, it's great to see you. I love your show. And again, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. And I just have to tell you, it's like, I'm going to bring this book forward so you guys can see this. This is a very thick book. As he said, it's 566 pages with how many tools and tips that you have in here? It's
114 illustrations. Yes.
Right. So let me tell you, this book is well worth your time. And as I said before, if you have any challenges in your life, I guarantee you there's an answer in here for it. So do be sure to go out and pick up your copy of IOU Life Leadership from Dr. Joe Famularo. So as always, at the end of the show, we want to go ahead and pull the ripcord on a author writer tip for you. And as we talked earlier about Dr. Joe's problem with categories and organizing his book. So I want to talk to you about preparing yourself for writing your book. Now, a lot of people talk about, writing is just sitting down and getting those words on the page, and they are right. It is about writing the book, about getting the ideas down on the page, but beyond that, for the business of getting your book organized so that it can be published and out to the world and understandable to your readers, it does require some organizations. I would always recommend to authors who are sure that they are going to want to publish to start out with a perspective or for some kind of an outline of how they expect their book to go. Some people go ahead and go further with that, where they go ahead and talk about how they're going to market their book, who they think will like their book, the audience that they want. These are common things that if you're going to be traditionally published, that you're going to be requested those information, talking about, do you have a social media following? Are you talking about this topic? Are you knowledgeable on the topic? Even if you are, as I am, a fiction author, you need to understand what it is that you're talking about. You do need to be organized. You do need to be able to reference the research that you've done. You need to pull out the right information. But a lot of times what I find is how the words flow out of you are not necessarily the best way to present them. So you have to sort of think as, back to your high school and college days when you were putting together those theses and those papers. It's like you write it all down and it sounds really good. And then you start adding in all of the research and the details and the pictures and stuff like that. And you quickly realize that maybe you need to go with a different approach. So again, think about organizing, think about, as he said, categorizing multiple times so that you can easily find this stuff, because there's nothing more frustrating than spending hours just trying to find that one little piece of paper or that one document that is there somewhere and you just can't get your hands on it. Also, if you're doing illustrations, as Dr. Famularo did, and as I do with my children's books, you do need to be able to reference those very easily. So a lot of times as authors, we're on social media, we have a lot of images and stuff like that. And I am really bad about this. I'm trying to get better at it, but organize those images too, because you don't know how hard it is to find that one image that you need when you need it in that moment, and how many hours of wasted time you're going to have when it would just take you a few seconds at that moment when you are putting it away. So I hope these tips are helpful for you. Do make sure that you go out and read books on writing, because even though writing is probably one of the simplest things to do, it's also one of the harder things to do. And again, it is your craft. And so we want to make sure that you are developing that craft. You're an artist just as well as any other painter or musician, and you need to practice and learn your craft. So I hope that was helpful for you today. And as always, we're glad that you're here with us on the Writer's Parachute. And we, of course, want to thank Dr. Joe for joining us today and talking about his new book, IOU Life Leadership. We're excited to look for his new children's book that is coming out this fall. And we hope to have you back. Thank you again for being here.